Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, June the 14th, and here are the headlines for today. Guys, I wanted to begin by talking about the drought conditions across the lower 48, and we do have some updates to discuss. Currently over the southeast, we've been watching southern Georgia and northern Florida here, as they've been in an exceptional drought here for several months, and the drought has seemed to worsen with time. Another area we've been watching here is over the Central Plains and over the Intermountain West. We have a very large region here of severe drought, with areas of exceptional drought, of course. But some of these areas have actually seen relief in recent weeks because of heavy rain. So I wanted to take a look at that. And just by zooming in here on the lower 48, we can see over southern Georgia and northern Florida, where we've actually gotten beneficial rain here recently. So that area of red and maroon that we're seeing previously has actually decreased over time. In fact, much of the deep south here from Texas to Florida has seen beneficial rain over the last several weeks. And this will likely continue as we get into next week as well. However, the drought is worsening in certain areas. And I do want to mention here northern North Carolina and central Virginia. The red area is actually expanded here over the mid-Atlantic. And as far as rainfall the next week, it looks like you guys might be missing out on some of this beneficial rain. Another area of concern here is over western Nebraska. I want to highlight that for you guys as well. This is another area where you'll see rain around you on the radar the next week, but you won't be receiving it in high amounts like we're going to be seeing over the deep south. I do want to mention here just west of the Great Lakes that we've seen the drought actually increase with time here from Minnesota into Illinois. This is a region where we didn't see really a lot of yellow or this tan and orange on the map, but here in recent weeks that's actually expanded here. Again, that area over Wisconsin, Minnesota, over northern Illinois as well. Now this kind of leads into the question of the day. As to how much rain are we actually expected to have during this time of year. And not only are we struggling to remove this deficit of rainfall, but we're also trying to maintain the rainfall that's expected during the summer months. And it's actually quite a bit here if you live east of the Rockies. In fact, if you live, let's say, in eastern portions of the Great Plains here, even over eastern Texas, all points east, you can see a lot of green here on the map. And we're seeing upwards of 4 inches where you see the green. Even over, let's say, portions of the Midwest here, especially over the deep south, you see this cyan blue. That's 5 to 6 inches of rain that's expected in the month of June. And over North Florida, you can see this purple on the map, and that's indicating 7 to 8 inches of rain that's expected. But this leads to the question of the day. So what do forecasters mean when they say monthly average rainfall? And how are those averages actually calculated in your city? So, for instance, if you were to look at this map and they say the average is 4 inches of rainfall, what do they mean by that? And how do they actually calculate that? So if you have an answer for that, again, if you look at the title here on the screen, that kind of gives you a hint as to how they do it. But yeah, just answer that in the comments down below. And finally, one other thing I want to point out on this map that's rather interesting. If you live in the southwest here, you see a large region of white, and that's indicating anywhere from 0 to 1 inch of rainfall. So it's a very dry time for the southwest. And this does change as we get into the later portion of the summer, especially as we get into late July, early August. We get the winds shifting out of the south for the summer monsoon. But during the month of June, very little rain is expected here if you live in places like Los Angeles or Phoenix, Arizona. Now, the big story over the next week is going to be the severe weather east of the Rockies here that sets up. And one of the days we'll be looking at is the day Sunday here for severe weather across the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Now, the setup for this is going to be due to a shortwave trough that's positioned over the Midwest. So I'm kind of identify that for you guys here. Now, for any trough that forms or moves across a general area, if you're looking for where the rainfall is going to occur, it's going to be in front of that trough, just to the right downstream of it. So anywhere in particular, let's say on this side of the trough, and you'd expect showers and thunderstorms, specifically in this zone here. That's not to say that you don't see it to the north or to the south of that region that I've highlighted. And in fact, when we look at the same time frame, again, the projected showers and thunderstorms that could form, voila, right? Just to the east of that, we have a lot of green and orange here on the map. And these showers and thunderstorms that are forming in the early afternoon hours will actually rush off to the east during the day Sunday into Sunday night. Now, this is not the only region that will be receiving rainfall. We do have a large high-pressure system in the Atlantic currently, and high-pressure systems, of course, generate clockwise flow around them. So we do have flow out of the Gulf of Mexico currently, and this is bringing rainfall into Texas and places in the deep south from Louisiana to Florida. And this is providing, again, beneficial rain to these areas. Now, this is typical for the summer months where we see large amounts of rainfall, especially in the state of Florida. And of course, any reduction in that creates a deficit there. Now, the rain's not limited to the deep south and that trough that we just mentioned. We actually have another short wave here in California. Kind of make it out more clearly here on the map. And this is creating showers and thunderstorms actually downstream of that over the Intermountain West. So if you live in the states of Nevada, Utah, Colorado, even northern portions of Arizona and New Mexico, there's another region here of shower and thunderstorm activity that's going to be developing Sunday. And guys, I do want to mention that we do have showers and thunderstorms over the deep south during the day Sunday. You kind of see how it just continually refires throughout the day, especially over Oklahoma and Texas, and then eventually over the states of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. However, we do have a separate area of showers and thunderstorms that we just mentioned over the Ohio Valley that forms early in the afternoon and rushes off to the east. So we'll see that here in just a moment when this video replays. And we can see this here forming by the early afternoon hours here during the day Sunday, especially getting started over Columbus, Ohio, and later over western Pennsylvania and places like Pittsburgh. It's important to note that the shower and thunderstorm activity will likely not impact New York City or Boston until late in the day Sunday, and maybe even into the overnight hours. And we can see how the showers and thunderstorms eventually push offshore as we get into early Monday morning. Now, during the day Sunday, we can see that we do have the potential for severe weather up and down the Appalachians here from northern Georgia all the way up into New York State, southern Vermont, and even western New Hampshire. So a large area here of potential for severe weather. And the main threat here is going to be not only heavy rain with some of these thunderstorms, but also large hail and damaging winds. Now, as far as the tornado threat, we're talking about a very low risk of that during the day Sunday. Another area of concern is going to be over southern New Mexico into much of Texas here, northern Louisiana and southern Arkansas. Again, the major threat there is going to probably be hail, damaging winds, but we're looking at a marginal risk compared to what we're seeing further to the east. Now, getting into the day Monday, one thing you'll notice if you were to zoom into this area here over the Great Lakes and into the northeast, we don't see an obvious trough-like feature this time, right? That's changed here, going from Sunday into Monday. But we do have this area here over southern Canada that will eventually propagate to the south and east with time. It'll actually pull down south and actually become more elongated with time, and that'll create another area of showers and thunderstorms as we get into the day Tuesday. So more or less, we're going to see a break in the severe weather activity as we move into Monday. And we'll see a general area of showers and thunderstorms once again from Texas to parts of Georgia. Again, beneficial rain over the deep south. You kind of see that here on the image to the right here. So if you live anywhere from Dallas to Houston, Texas, we see some beneficial rain. Again, points eastward, let's say to areas just south of Atlanta, Georgia. We see some good shower and thunderstorm activity there as well. And then the feature that I pointed out here over the northern Great Plains and in North Dakota, northern portions of Minnesota, that's going to be our next little shortwave trough that begins to move into the lower 48. And this will impact the Great Lakes region as we move into Tuesday. Now, looking at the day Monday, you can see the shower and thunderstorm activity begin to fire up here over the northern Great Plains and actually eventually fall apart as we move later in the day. So it's not necessarily a strong system that's going to be accompanying this. However, we will see a stronger system form, let's say during the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame in the northern Great Plains, and that will eventually affect areas to the east over the Great Lakes, the Northeast, the Ohio Valley, maybe during Wednesday into Thursday. And of course, we're seeing the showers and thunderstorms continue here over the deep south due to this high pressure system that's way off the coast, right, over there in the Atlantic. Now, as mentioned before, the severe weather impact for the storms on Monday is going to be very low. This region here over the northern Great Plains is going to likely have maybe an isolated severe thunderstorm possible, maybe over the state of Minnesota there. But again, we're talking about a weak system accompanying that shortwave trough coming out of Canada. We do have a low pressure system back here over Southern California into parts of Arizona, and that could help generate some lift here into New Mexico and Texas. But again, it should be a marginal risk of severe weather. The general afternoon thunderstorm is going to be the main threat there. Maybe a burst of heavy rain, maybe some small hail, that kind of deal here over the southern plains. Now, as we get into Tuesday, we'll notice a more pronounced trough actually take shape here just to the west of the Great Lakes. And we're going to see a low pressure system actually form maybe over the UP of Michigan. And with it, we might see some severe weather here over Wisconsin and points to the east over, let's say, the state of Michigan, down into other areas of the Midwest, into the state of Illinois, perhaps into eastern Missouri as well. And I know it sounds like a broken record, but again, over the deep south, we do have some more beneficial rain taking place there. Now, taking a closer look, we can see how the showers and thunderstorms really get going over the Midwest during Tuesday afternoon, but then fall apart, right, during Tuesday night as they approach the Ohio Valley. The bigger system is going to begin to take form during Wednesday morning here over South Dakota. So just kind of highlight that, guys, for you here as we get early in the day Wednesday and kind of see that low pressure system. Again, has a lower number, right, than what we're seeing with that system of the Great Lakes. That could continue to strengthen possibly as we move into Wednesday and eventually Thursday. Now, looking at the rainfall totals just through Tuesday night, we can see a lot of blue here on the map if you live, let's say, in parts of the southern plains up to, let's say, the Great Lakes region here. Again, that indicates of about a half an inch of rainfall in general here. One thing you'll notice also over the deep south, a lot of pink here, and even some deeper pinks near and around Houston. So we could see a general 1.5 to maybe 3 inches of rainfall here in parts of the deep south. So very beneficial rain over a few days, right? However, considering the drought, right, affected areas, one of the areas that we talked about was over North Carolina and Virginia. You'll notice a gap in the rainfall here. So maybe 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 inch of rainfall over the same period. So you're going to have some areas that get nothing from this event and some areas that do pick up maybe 1/2 inch from a heavier thunderstorm. But there's going to be fewer instances where people do get rain in this region. Another area I want to highlight here is over western Nebraska. This is another area that needs rain badly here. So we're suffering from short-term and long-term effects here in both of these regions that I've highlighted. Well, guys, we'll leave it at that today. I hope you enjoyed today's forecast. We touched on these averages, these monthly averages here for rainfall, which I think is a very important concept to consider when looking at the amount of rainfall we're getting from these thunderstorms from week to week. So even though we might get 2 or 3 heavy thunderstorms during a month's time, you actually need more rain than that over the course of a month. So now, typically over the deep south, to restore these deficits that we've seen in rainfall, we usually need a tropical system later in the year to make up that rainfall. So you'll see some forecasters talk about this as we get into September, October timeframe, that these systems are actually very beneficial to these areas. In spite of the destruction that we can see from them, there is some benefit from the heavy rainfall that does occur. And of course, guys, if you have an answer to the questions that we discussed before, please leave those down in the comments below. And if you liked today's video, please leave a like or subscribe, as that does help the channel. I hope to see you guys next week for the next video. Bye for now.